Welcome to today's book, Summary of Hidden Potential, The Science of Achieving Greater Things, by Adam Grant. In this video, we'll explore how true potential isn't about innate talent, but rather our capacity for growth and improvement. Whether you're looking to develop professionally, help others achieve more, or create environments where talent can flourish, Grant's research offers practical insights backed by science. He challenges conventional wisdom about success and provides a refreshing perspective on how we can all tap into capabilities we didn't know we had. Over the next few minutes, I'll break down the key concepts from this groundbreaking book, showing how struggle can be valuable, how the right mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities, and how focusing on contribution rather than achievement leads to more meaningful success. Let's discover how to unlock the hidden potential in ourselves and others. Chapter Part 1: Foundation of Growth. Adam Grant's Hidden Potential explores how we can unlock capabilities that remain dormant within ourselves and others. The book challenges conventional wisdom about talent, suggesting that our greatest untapped resource isn't rare genius, but the hidden potential that exists in ordinary people. Redefining potential. Grant begins by dismantling the myth that potential is primarily about innate talent. Instead, he proposes a more dynamic framework. Potential isn't fixed, but expandable, and often the greatest room for growth exists in areas where we initially struggle. The traditional view of potential focuses on early signs of exceptional ability, the child prodigy who masters an instrument without formal lessons, the student who solves complex math problems intuitively. This perspective leads us to look for people who can already demonstrate excellence, rather than those who could develop it. Grant offers a contrasting vision. The most promising indicator of potential isn't current performance, but the capacity for improvement. He introduces research showing that individuals who start with disadvantages often develop unique skills that serve them well over time. These compensatory advantages arise specifically because of early struggles, not despite them. This reframing has profound implications. It suggests we should evaluate people not just on current abilities, but on their learning trajectory, how quickly they acquire new skills and integrate feedback. The steepness of this learning curve often matters more than the starting point. The character factor. Grant argues that character qualities powerfully influence who fulfills their potential. He highlights several key traits. Psychological safety. Creates environments where people feel comfortable taking risks, sharing ideas, and admitting mistakes. In teams and organizations with high psychological safety, innovation flourishes because people aren't paralyzed by fear of judgment. Grit combines passion with perseverance, enabling people to maintain effort toward long-term goals despite setbacks. Grant presents research showing that grit often predicts achievement better than talent measures, particularly in challenging domains where many give up. Growth mindset. Involves believing abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. People with growth mindsets view challenges as opportunities to improve rather than threats to their identity, leading them to embrace difficult tasks and persist through obstacles. Flourish. Learning through struggle. A central theme in Grant's analysis is the paradoxical value of difficulty. When learning comes too easily, it often remains shallow. By contrast, productive struggle creates deeper, more durable learning. This principle applies across domains. Students who wrestle with concepts before receiving explanations often develop stronger understanding. Musicians who practice challenging techniques just beyond their current ability level improve faster. Teams that work through disagreements rather than avoiding conflict make better decisions. Grant introduces the concept of desirable difficulties, challenges that temporarily slow performance, but enhance long-term learning. These might include varying practice conditions, rather than repeating identical exercises, testing yourself instead of simply reviewing material, teaching concepts to others, which forces deeper processing, reconsidering failure. Our relationship with failure dramatically impacts potential fulfillment. Grant distinguishes between two approaches. The TEAS performance orientation treats failure as evidence of inadequacy, leading people to avoid challenges where they might not excel. This protects self-esteem in the short term, but limits growth. The learning orientation treats failure as information, viewing mistakes as valuable feedback that guides improvement. This mindset leads people to seek challenges that stretch their abilities. Grant shares examples of successful individuals who maintained detailed failure resumes alongside their achievements, documenting setbacks and lessons learned. This practice transforms failure from something to fear into a resource for growth. Building better systems. While individual mindset matters, Grant emphasizes that systems and environments powerfully shape potential development. He examines how different organizational structures either nurture or stifle growth. Traditional systems often focus on identifying high potentials early and providing them special opportunities. This approach tends to reinforce initial advantages rather than developing hidden potential. Grant advocates for more inclusive approaches that provide structured opportunities for people to demonstrate capabilities beyond current roles, create feedback systems that highlight specific behaviors rather than general impressions, design evaluation processes that measure improvement alongside absolute performance. Early in our careers and lives, we often face gatekeepers who evaluate us based on current abilities rather than potential for growth. Grant suggests strategies for both gatekeepers and individuals navigating these systems to better recognize and nurture hidden potential. The first part of hidden potential establishes this foundation. That remarkable achievement often comes not from extraordinary inborn talent, but from creating conditions that allow ordinary people to develop extraordinary capabilities through deliberate effort, productive struggle, and supportive environments. Part 2. The learning process. In the second part of Hidden Potential, Adam Grant delves deeper into how learning processes can be optimized to unlock capabilities that might otherwise remain dormant. He examines specific strategies that separate those who plateau early from those who continue developing throughout their lives. The power of deliberate practice. Grant builds on research showing that expertise doesn't simply come from experience, but from a specific type of focused improvement effort called deliberate practice. Unlike routine practice that reinforces what we already know, deliberate practice concentrates on weaknesses and pushes beyond comfort zones. The key elements of deliberate practice include targeted focus on specific aspects needing improvement. Rather than general repetition, deliberate practice isolates particular components for focused attention. A musician might work exclusively on difficult transitions rather than playing entire pieces. Immediate, actionable feedback. Growth accelerates when we receive specific guidance about what's working and what isn't. Grant examines how different feedback structures impact learning trajectories. Working at the edge of ability. The optimal learning zone exists just beyond current capabilities, challenging enough to stretch skills, but not so overwhelming that progress becomes impossible. Mental representations. Experts develop increasingly sophisticated mental models that help them recognize patterns and anticipate what comes next. These representations allow them to process information more efficiently. Grant connects this research to practical applications across domains from education to professional development. He emphasizes that deliberate practice often doesn't feel enjoyable in the moment. It involves concentration, struggle, and confronting limitations. Yet, it builds capabilities that create greater satisfaction in the long run. The coaching difference. While self-directed learning matters, Grant highlights how skilled coaches dramatically accelerate potential development. The best coaches combine technical expertise with teaching ability. Understanding what excellence looks like isn't sufficient. Great coaches can break complex skills into learnable components and adapt explanations to different learning styles. Push and support. Effective coaches challenge students beyond what they would attempt independently, while simultaneously providing emotional support that makes stretching feel safe. Individual customization. Rather than one-size-fits-all approaches, exceptional coaches tailor guidance to each person's specific needs, strengths, and growth edges. Grant shares examples of coaching relationships that transformed ordinary performers into extraordinary ones, examining how these interactions differed from more common but less effective approaches. He suggests that finding the right coach, someone who combines rigorous standards with genuine investment in your growth, represents one of the highest leveraged decisions for unlocking potential. Learning communities. Individual effort matters, but Grant shows how learning communities multiply development opportunities. He explores research on how peer groups influence aspiration levels, effort norms, and skill acquisition. In supportive learning communities, peers become resources rather than competitors. When knowledge sharing becomes the norm, everyone benefits from the collective wisdom and varied perspectives. Healthy competition raises standards. Seeing peers accomplish challenging goals expands our sense of what's possible and motivates greater effort. Complementary strengths create learning opportunities. Different individuals excel in different areas, creating natural teaching and learning relationships. Psychological safety enables vulnerability. In environments where admitting confusion or mistakes feels safe, learning accelerates because people aren't wasting energy on impression management. Grant examines specific structures that foster these dynamics, from study groups to professional learning communities to sports teams. He suggests that finding or creating the right learning community represents a critical decision for anyone serious about developing their potential. Productive failure. One of Grant's most counterintuitive points involves embracing rather than avoiding failure. He distinguishes between unproductive failure, which merely reinforces frustration, and productive failure, which generates insights that guide improvement. Productive failure typically involves advanced preparation, having requisite background knowledge and tools to learn from the experience. Appropriate challenge level. Attempting something difficult, but not impossible. Structured reflection. Systematically analyzing what happened and identifying adjustments for future attempts. Implementation opportunities. Quickly applying insights to new situations before lessons fade. Grant presents research showing that educational approaches incorporating productive failure, where students attempt challenging problems before receiving instruction, often produce deeper understanding than traditional teaching methods. This principle extends beyond formal education to professional development and personal growth. Mental models and knowledge. Transfer. A key mark of fulfilled potential is the ability to transfer learning across contexts. Grant explores how people develop mental models that allow them to recognize patterns and apply principles flexibly, rather than following rigid procedures. He contrasts surface learning, memorizing specific solutions, with deep learning, understanding underlying principles. While surface learning may produce quick results in familiar situations, deep learning enables adaptation to novel challenges. Grant examines specific practices that build transferable knowledge, comparative learning, studying multiple examples side by side to extract common principles. Varied practice, applying skills in diverse contexts rather than identical repetitions. Explanation, articulating why certain approaches work rather than just how to execute them. Connection making, deliberately linking new information to existing knowledge networks. These approaches initially feel more difficult and may temporarily slow apparent progress. However, they create more robust, adaptable capabilities over time. precisely the kind that allow hidden potential to emerge in unexpected circumstances. Metacognition. Learning how to learn. Perhaps the most powerful accelerator of potential development is metacognition, the ability to monitor and control one's own learning processes. Grant examines how people who excel at developing new capabilities typically possess strong metacognitive skills. These include accurate self-assessment, recognizing what they know and don't know without overconfidence or excessive self-criticism, strategic resource allocation, focusing effort where it will produce the greatest learning returns, rather than where they already feel comfortable, approach adjustment, modifying strategies when current methods aren't producing desired results, progress monitoring, regularly checking whether understanding is deepening and skills are improving. Grant presents evidence that explicitly teaching metacognitive strategies alongside content knowledge substantially improves learning outcomes. He suggests practical approaches for strengthening these capabilities in ourselves and others. The second part of hidden potential thus provides a comprehensive framework for optimizing learning processes. Grant makes clear that unlocking potential isn't merely about effort, but about applying effort strategically through deliberate practice, effective coaching relationships, supportive learning communities, productive failure experiences, transferable mental models, and strong metacognitive skills. Part 3. Overcoming obstacles. In the third part of Hidden Potential, Adam Grant addresses the various barriers that prevent people from fulfilling their capabilities. He examines both internal psychological obstacles and external systemic barriers, offering research-backed strategies for navigating these challenges. The mindset barrier. Grant begins by exploring how our beliefs about ability fundamentally shape our capacity to develop potential. He builds on Carol Dweck's research, distinguishing between fixed and growth mindsets, but adds nuanced insights about how these mindsets operate in practice. People with predominantly fixed mindsets tend to interpret struggles as evidence of permanent limitations, avoid challenges that might reveal weaknesses, feel threatened by others' success, give up quickly when facing obstacles. By contrast, those with growth mindsets typically view difficulties as temporary and instructive, seek challenges that stretch their abilities, find inspiration in others' achievements, persist through setbacks. Grant acknowledges that most people don't consistently maintain pure versions of either mindset. We shift between them depending on context, past experiences, and surrounding influences. He explores specific triggers that activate fixed mindset reactions even in generally growth-oriented individuals. Particularly illuminating is Grant's examination of false growth mindset, situations where people verbally endorse growth principles while their behaviors reveal fixed mindset assumptions. This disconnect often appears when organizations claim to value development while rewarding only flawless performance. Leaders encourage risk-taking but punish honest mistakes. Individuals praise effort abstractly while making fundamental ability attributions in specific cases. Grant provides practical strategies for cultivating authentic growth mindsets by addressing underlying beliefs rather than merely adopting superficial language. These include reframing challenges as learning opportunities rather than tests of ability, building identity around development processes rather than achievement outcomes, creating environments where vulnerability and effort are genuinely valued, practicing self-compassion during struggles instead of harsh self-judgment. The fear factor. Fear represents another significant obstacle to realizing potential. Grant examines various fear types that constrain growth. Fear of failure leads to avoiding situations where success isn't guaranteed, thus limiting opportunities to develop new capabilities. Fear of rejection prevents people from seeking feedback, mentorship, or opportunities that could accelerate their development. Fear of success sometimes emerges when achievement might change identity or relationships in uncomfortable ways. Imposter syndrome. Feeling fraudulent despite objective evidence of competence creates anxiety that consumes cognitive resources needed for learning and performance. Rather than simply encouraging people to overcome these fears, Grant offers more nuanced approaches. Strategic courage involves acknowledging fears while acting despite them in carefully selected growth opportunities. Psychological distancing techniques help create perspective that makes fears less overwhelming. Fear reframing transforms threatening interpretations into more productive narratives. Gradual exposure builds comfort with feared situations through incrementally challenging experiences. Grant shares examples of individuals who use these approaches to move beyond paralyzing fears toward fulfilling previously hidden potential. Systemic barriers. While internal psychological factors matter, Grant emphasizes that external barriers significantly influence who can develop their potential. He examines how various systems either expand or constrain opportunities. Educational systems often sort students based on early performance indicators that may reflect differences in exposure and support rather than ultimate potential. Organizational structures frequently allocate development resources to those already identified as high potential, creating self-fulfilling prophecies. Social networks provide different access to information, opportunities, and support, depending on factors unrelated to individual capabilities. Cultural expectations shape which talents are recognized and cultivated versus overlooked or actively discouraged. Grant presents research on how these systemic factors create uneven developmental landscapes that advantage some groups while disadvantaging others. He suggests both individual navigation strategies and system-level reforms to create more equitable potential development opportunities. Particularly valuable is Grant's analysis of how disadvantages sometimes generate compensatory advantages, specific capabilities that develop precisely because of navigating difficult circumstances. Adversity often builds resilience when paired with adequate support resources. Being an outsider can generate fresh perspectives that insiders miss. Facing constraints sometimes sparks creative problem-solving approaches. Navigating dual cultural contexts can develop cognitive flexibility. These insights suggest that hidden potential often exists, not despite challenging circumstances, but because of how people respond to them. Stereotype. Threat and identity. Grant examines how stereotypes about different groups' abilities create psychological burdens that interfere with performance and learning. When people fear confirming negative stereotypes about groups they belong to, cognitive resources shift from the task at hand to managing anxiety and impression concerns. Research shows that stereotype threat increases cognitive load, reducing processing capacity, triggers monitoring processes that disrupt automatic performance, creates physiological stress responses that impair optimal functioning, promotes avoidance of challenging domains where stereotypes apply. Grant explores several approaches for mitigating these effects. Values affirmation exercises reconnect people with core personal values, providing psychological resources that buffer against threat. Role model exposure demonstrates that people from similar backgrounds can succeed, challenging the validity of limiting stereotypes. Growth mindset cultivation frames abilities as developable rather than fixed, reducing stereotype relevance. Wise feedback combines high standards with explicit confidence in someone's capacity to meet them, countering doubt triggered by stereotypes. These strategies don't eliminate systemic inequities, but help individuals navigate them more effectively while working toward broader changes, recovery, and renewal. Grant points out that realizing potential isn't about constant pushing. It requires understanding the rhythms of exertion and recovery. He presents research on how various renewal practices support sustained development. Strategic rest allows consolidation of learning and prevents diminishing returns from exhaustion. Psychological detachment from challenges creates mental space for unconscious processing. Positive emotion experiences replenish psychological resources, depleted by difficult growth efforts. Connection with purpose renews motivation When immediate progress seems slow, Grant challenges the hustle culture notion that maximizing work hours optimizes achievement, presenting evidence that deliberate recovery practices actually accelerate potential development over time. Support networks. The final obstacle Grant addresses involves isolation. People rarely fulfill potential through solitary effort. They need varied relationships that provide different forms of support. Emotional support offers encouragement and validation during inevitable struggles. Informational support provides knowledge and perspective that guide development efforts. Instrumental support delivers practical assistance that makes continued growth possible. Challenge support pushes beyond comfort zones when individuals might otherwise settle. Grant examines how different relationship types contribute to potential development. Mentors who have traveled similar paths, peers facing parallel challenges, friends who provide psychological safety, coaches who offer structured development guidance. He suggests strategies for building diverse support networks that collectively provide the varied resources needed to overcome obstacles and fulfill hidden potential. This third section of hidden potential thus provides a comprehensive framework for addressing the psychological and systemic barriers that often prevent capabilities from being fully realized. Part 4. Sustainable achievement and impact. In the final part of hidden potential, Adam Grant shifts focus from development processes to sustainable achievement and meaningful impact. He explores how individuals can maintain growth trajectories over time while contributing value to others. Beyond achievement. Finding purpose. Grant begins by examining the relationship between achievement and fulfillment. He presents research showing that accomplishment alone often proves surprisingly empty and less connected to deeper purpose. High achievers frequently experience what psychologists call the arrival fallacy, the mistaken belief that reaching a goal will create lasting satisfaction. Instead, many find themselves quickly adjusting to new accomplishments and setting ever higher targets, creating a hedonic treadmill of striving without fulfillment. Grant identifies several approaches that transform achievement from an end itself into a means for meaningful contribution. Purpose discovery involves identifying how personal strengths and passions can address needs that matter. This discovery isn't typically a single moment of revelation, but an iterative process of exploration and reflection. Job crafting means reshaping current roles to better align with purpose, often by emphasizing tasks that contribute meaningful value or changing how existing responsibilities are approached. Value clarification helps prioritize which potential accomplishments would create the most meaningful impact rather than pursuing all possible achievements. Research suggests that connecting achievement to purpose creates several benefits. Enhanced motivation during inevitable difficulties, greater resilience after setbacks, more selective investment of energy toward meaningful goals, deeper satisfaction from accomplishments. Grant offers practical exercises for clarifying purpose and aligning achievement efforts with core values, transforming potential fulfillment from self-focused accomplishment to meaningful contribution. Sustaining motivation. Even with clear purpose, maintaining motivation through extended development periods presents challenges. Grant examines research on sustainable motivation, distinguishing between extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards or pressures, introjected motivation, powered by internal pressure and contingent self-worth, identified motivation based on recognizing personal importance, integrated motivation aligned with core values and identity, intrinsic motivation fueled by inherent enjoyment of activities. While popular advice often suggests pursuing only intrinsically enjoyable activities, Grant presents a more nuanced perspective. Development inevitably includes difficult, frustrating phases that won't generate immediate enjoyment. Sustainable motivation typically combines multiple sources: intrinsic enjoyment of certain aspects, connection to meaningful purpose, identity alignment, progress indicators that provide encouragement, supportive relationships that offer accountability. Grant provides strategies for maintaining motivation through plateaus and setbacks, emphasizing the importance of celebrating incremental progress and finding meaning in the development process itself, rather than focusing exclusively on endpoints. The contribution mindset Grant introduces what he calls the contribution mindset, an orientation that focuses less on personal achievement and more on how individual capabilities can create value for others. This shift transforms potential development from self-centered ambition to other-centered impact. The contribution mindset affects various aspects of potential fulfillment. Goal selection prioritizes objectives with meaningful impact rather than merely impressive credentials. Skill development focuses on capabilities that solve important problems rather than those that simply demonstrate personal excellence. Knowledge sharing becomes natural rather than threatening, as expertise gains value through application rather than monopolization. Collaboration emerges as a means for multiplying impact rather than diluting credit. Grant presents research showing that this contribution orientation often paradoxically leads to greater personal success as well. When people genuinely focus on creating value, they typically build stronger relationships and support networks, develop reputation as trusted resources, find more meaningful opportunities, experience greater fulfillment from achievements. Teaching and mentoring. Grant explores how teaching others represents one of the most powerful ways to both develop and express potential. Contrary to the notion that helping others advance might diminish personal advantage, research shows that teaching frequently benefits the teacher as much as the student. Explaining concepts deepens understanding by requiring clearer mental organization. Anticipating questions highlights knowledge gaps that might otherwise remain unrecognized. Observing others' learning processes reveals alternative approaches and perspectives. Experiencing contribution fulfillment provides motivation that sustains development efforts. Grant examines various teaching and mentoring approaches, identifying practices that maximize benefits for both parties. Reciprocal mentoring acknowledges that both participants have valuable knowledge to share. Process transparency reveals not just what to do, but how to think about challenges. Autonomy support helps others develop independent capabilities, rather than creating dependency. Growth-oriented feedback focuses on specific improvements rather than general evaluations. These approaches transform teaching from a one-way knowledge transfer into a mutual growth experience that helps both parties fulfill their potential. Innovation and creative contribution. Grant examines how fulfilled potential often manifests through creative contributions that solve problems in novel ways. He distinguishes between different innovation approaches. Conceptual innovation recombines existing ideas into new frameworks. Experimental innovation tests variations to discover improvements through iteration. Boundary-spanning innovation transfers solutions between previously disconnected domains. Each approach draws on different aspects of potential, suggesting that meaningful contribution doesn't require a single definition of creativity. Grant examines how various personal characteristics and development histories naturally lead toward different innovation styles. Particularly valuable is Grant's analysis of the social aspects of innovation. Creative contributions rarely emerge from isolated genius, but typically involve exposure to diverse perspectives that challenge conventional assumptions, constructive debate that refines and strengthens initial ideas, implementation partnerships that transform concepts into practical reality, feedback integration that incorporates multiple viewpoints. These insights suggest that potential fulfillment through innovation requires not just developing personal capabilities, but cultivating relationships that enhance creative processes, legacy, and long-term impact. In the book's conclusion, Grant addresses how fulfilled potential creates lasting impact beyond immediate accomplishments. He examines various forms of legacy, knowledge contributions that advance understanding in meaningful domains, institutional improvements that create better systems for others, cultural influences that shape values and practices, relationship impacts that help others develop their own potential. Grant suggests that focusing on these longer-term impacts helps maintain perspective during inevitable setbacks and provides meaning that transcends individual achievements. Particularly powerful is Grant's examination of how helping others develop their potential often creates the most significant lasting impact. This potential multiplication effect means that investing in others' growth can create ripple effects far beyond what any individual could accomplish directly. The book concludes with practical guidance for creating personal development plans that integrate these insights, approaches that balance achievement with contribution, skill development with meaning, and personal growth with positive impact on others. This final section of Hidden Potential thus completes Grant's framework by connecting individual development to broader purpose. He makes clear that truly fulfilling potential isn't merely about personal achievement, but about directing developed capabilities toward meaningful contribution. And there you have it, the core wisdom from Adam Grant's Hidden Potential. As we've seen, unlocking our capabilities isn't about finding some magical talent we were born with, but rather embracing the process of growth, particularly through challenge and difficulty. Remember that potential isn't fixed. It expands when we adopt a growth mindset, engage in deliberate practice, and surround ourselves with supportive communities. Our greatest achievements often come not from avoiding obstacles, but from how we respond to them. Perhaps most importantly, fulfilling our potential isn't just about personal achievement. It's about directing our developed capabilities toward meaningful contribution, creating value for others, and helping them discover their own hidden potential. If you found this summary valuable, please like and subscribe for more book insights that can help you grow. Until next time, keep developing that hidden potential within you.